For A, Stella would be half correct because when you add on a 0 to a whole number, it does make it 10 times greater. I put an example. If you start with 5 and then you add a 0, it would be 50, so that is making it 10 times greater. But then for a decimal, it would be the same value, like 0.5 and 0.50. It would be the same value, you would just say it differently. And then for B, 0.03 would be 300ths, and then 0.030 would be 30 thousandths because of that extra 0. For C, I said 300 was 3 times 10 to the power of 2 because if you start with 3 and your decimal is here and then you go over 2, that would make it 300. But with 30, it would be just 3 times 10 because 3 times 10 is 30. And then 0.03, you would start in front of the 3 and go -2. And then for the last one, would be the same as this one because the same value, you would just start here at 3.0 and go down 2. The difference for number 2, the difference between a terminating decimal and a repeating decimal is that a terminating decimal stops, so it's just 0.5. Like there's nothing after that, it would just stop. And then a repeating decimal, it never ends. So they always have this, you always put a bar over the repeating numbers. So like this number would be 0.12, 12, 12, and they would keep going on and on and on. So for number 3, I decided to find 10% of 850, and that got me 85. So then I had to find the 1% of 85. So I did 85 divided by 10, and I got 8.5. Then I added 85 plus 8.5 to get 93.5. And that is how I found 11% of 850. So for number 4, I kind of made up my own problem. Like, say something is $100. 100% of 100 is 100. 150% of 100 is 150. So the new price would be 250. So that works. But a decrease, 100% minus 100 would be 0, and then 150% of 100 would be -50. And you can't buy something for $. We just always buy something in positive money. For number 5, I turned the square root of 40 into a perfect square. So I got it down to 2 square root of 10 by putting 4 times 10 under the square root and then separating them, and then 2 square root 10. But I know that the square root of 9 is 3, and then the square root of 16 is 4. So it has to be, so 10 is in between 9 and 16, so the estimate has to be somewhere in between there. So I did 3.15, and then I had to multiply 2 times 3.15 to get 6.3. So my estimate would be 6.3. And then my simplified would be 2 square root 10. For number 6, the square root of 40 is irrational because a number that is not a perfect square is irrational, and 40 is not a perfect square because the lowest you can get it to is 2 square root 10. These numbers are rational, like the square root of 4, the square root of 9, square root of 16, because square root of 4 is 2, and then 3, and then 4.